Like some apparatus that it just projects light onto a flat surface, and you put your fingers on it. It looks like a keyboard, and it just reads where your fingers go.
Oh, it'd be so weird.
Yeah, it looks awesome, but like I need that textile.
You need to
feel that aspect of it. So like in that regard, I could see how having that old style typewriter style keyboard would be pretty cool. But it's kind of going a little far, really. I'm not buying a whole thing for it, and I'm not spending a lot of money for it, which I'm
I was going to say they're expensive.
Hipsters are doing.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a hipster moneymaker.
I knew a guy that was telling people when iPhone 5 or 6 was coming out, either the 5 or the 6, he was telling people that it was going to have that hard light keyboard kind of deal, and it didn't at all.
Sweet.
It was. It's just like one of those things where, like, why would you tell people that? That would be like a $10,000. That would be like a $10,000 phone, and that's with a 2-year contract. You can't.
Americans love to waste money. So
you're not talking me into that shit.
I wouldn't.
We're live.
Are we live? Well,
no. Yeah.
Don't scare me like that.
But yes.
But yes. Welcome to Screaming Boy Production, or Screaming Boy Podcast. That was our old name. Episode number 9, and we are bringing on the one and the only Josh Calanders, who was a little late tonight, but that's okay. He has a good reason for it. And so we brought him on. Then we have the one and only the Jesse Starcher, street level Starch, who is with us tonight as well.
Nice. I like that one, actually.
Street level Starch, and I'm trying to think of one for you, Josh.
That's fun.
That's fine, Josh.
Playing oh, yeah, that's fine, Calandris.
That sounds like a Matt Jackson wrestler name.
So
Nobody cares.
I'm going through my WWE 2K17, the creative players that you can download, and I see Donald Trump. I see a lot of wrestlers that are not on the game, of course, because they're with different companies or they're no longer with WWE. Like broken Matt Hardy, who just used to be Matt Hardy, but now he's broken, and he talks in a really bad British accent. And has a streak of white going through his hair, which is stands straight up. Like, remember the old movie, terrible movie, but it's hilarious. Yahoo Dangerous, I think is what it was.
That was Yahoo Serious.
Yahoo Serious, yeah. Yeah. It looks like him. Yahoo Serious.
So is this one of the made-up ones, or is this like what that guy's
is,
actually doing in real life?
He really does it.
Right.
Oh.
And his brother, of course, is Jeff Hardy, and they're really brothers. They live here in North Carolina, and just about an hour away from me, actually. And it's Broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero. Brother Nero. Instead of Jeff Hardy, it's Jefferson Nero Hardy or something like that. Jeffrey Nero, and he goes by Brother Nero now. And it's just it was so bad, Josh. I know you've never seen it. I know, but they did this. Have you seen the first kind of like video they did with Jesse?
I saw the one the Figure Forecast boys were talking about.
Yes, that one. That one where they where Jeff rides his dirt bike over to Matt's house, which is like a quarter of a mile away.
This is all filmed.
It's
okay?
all filmed.
You have to suspend your disbelief here, Josh, because it just gets so intense and so lifelike.
So
absolute joke.
He drives up to he rides up to the driveway, and he sees Matt's wife, Reby Sky, is that her name, or Reby something?
Reby
Hardy now, and she's got the baby and she's leaving. She says, "You have to do something about this." He's gone off the deep end. So he goes in and Matt's sitting at a piano playing piano, obviously not playing piano, and he stops and he goes, "Brother Nero, I knew you would be here." And he's like, he can sense him going into the house. And they have this whole discussion about, how Matt made Jeff and all this. And Jeff is like, "You're going to take credit." He has a really bad North Carolina accent. You're going to take credit for what I did. The money I made, the money that paid for my children's toys. We're like, what? Who mentioned your kids and their toys? And it's just horrible acting. So he's like, "Follow me." This all ends where it began, and they go out to their ring because they started a wrestling wrestling company here called oh shoot, it just left my head, just straight out. What was it? Omega Wrestling, and so they go out and they're talking about how they're going to end it in the ring. They're going to end it right here, right now, but they're going to do it at the pay-per-view. That's where they're going to end it. We're like, where are you going to end it? Is it now or is it then? And then they do this incredibly dangerous move off of it through this table that they found out in their backyard. It was obviously a kitchen table, and it was solid wood, and it just broke off the legs of it. It didn't break all the way through. And then,
oh man,
it was so bad.
What was hilarious about it, Josh? I know you're not a wrestling fan, and when you hear us talk about stuff
I'm
like this,
off.
that's all right. But I know
losing me.
You used to be the guy that watches stuff in the Attitude Era, so you knew like when they did stuff in between matches where they were trying to further along the story. Mm-hmm. Well, this was something very similar to try and build up between a match between Jeff and Matt Hardy. But what was funny is that it was so horrible.
So bad.
The wrestling community just crapped on it.
On it.
They said, "Oh my gosh, what are you guys? Do you guys actually expect us to take this seriously?" Well, didn't Ronnie, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't
yes.
They said yes, and then they just kept doing it because it was so bad and it was so funny.
That's actually pretty funny.
That it became part of it.
It is now like they're overdoing it. They're like
bad.
So popular now because of it, and it's amazing.
That is
own
something,
it, man.
They
That's
owned
right.
it. Yeah, exactly. They were like, "No, this is what we're doing now."
Own the failure.
And they're like, "Oh, you're doing this now," and they're like, "Yep, this is what we're doing." And they show up to they're with the company Total Nonstop Action TNA, but they also do like independent shows, and they show up to these shows as Broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero, and it's just everybody's like, "Yeah, Broken Matt Hardy, woo!" I'm like, "Did you not see the videos? Did you not? It's terrible." And then I watch them, and I'm like, "No, this is so bad, it's good."
Yeah.
So they've got them, and they've got, of course, Donald Trump. They've got your favorite. Somebody made Harambe, Josh. And then they've got their own creations on there, like the Psycho Kid and Thorn and all these. I'm like, what? No, nobody wants if you can make a good wrestler who's not on the game that actually exists, that's good. Don't upload your overpowered, ridiculous character into it. But anyway, enough about WWE 2K17. Adam, are you here?
I am here, man.
Yay.
It took me a little while. I had to brave the weather and climb over a couple mountains and through the rivers, and man, I got here.
You still got a hurricane going on down there?
No, we actually fared much better than most people. We lost a shutter, some screens came off our windows, but other than that, we didn't really lose much. But outside,
hopefully you will rebuild.
Yeah. Down towards the coast, though, man, they got hammered. There are people who are back to like a pot, like splintered wood. It's like a splintered wood in a toilet. It's like that's where I used to sleep.
We used to live in Jacksonville, Florida, and so like whenever the hurricane was kind of at its height. That's really kind of where it first hit. A little bit south of there, St. Augustine, I think, has started to get really messed up. But like the videos and stuff out of Jacksonville were getting crazy.
Now your grandpa was talking about, wasn't he, Jesse?
Yeah, and here I was. I kept following the Weather Channel, and I know I was sharing with you guys like, oh my gosh, look at the wind speed at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be 90 mile an hour, and then wind speed's going to be like 130. And I talked to my grandpa, and he's like, well, I didn't talk to my grandpa. I talked to a relative who talked to grandpa, and the only thing that he lost was the cover to his boat, okay, and his fish cleaning table, I think, blew away. And that was about it.
Retired life.
Yeah, I was going to say, so he pretty much has nothing to do now.
He has to rebuild. He was like, I'd say, I don't know, about 20 miles from Cape Canaveral. And I mean, at one point the eye was like right beside Cape Canaveral, and there was a wind advisory. It said they had measured a 100 mile per hour gust at Cape Canaveral, but I don't think they got it extremely bad where he lived in Titusville. So that's good. That's a good thing. I didn't really get to see too much other than some of the big videos that were shared of some of the damage, but around his area, it doesn't sound like anything was, really, really destroyed, which is good.
Very good. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I just thought you were putting your kid to sleep. Adam.
I was, but he fell asleep.
Traversing the plains.
Well, yeah, I was putting him to sleep, and then my sister Brittany, she sent me a text message, and we were texting back and forth, and she sent this hilarious picture of let me back up. So there's this meme war that she and I were doing on the internet, and it's freaking hilarious because like she broke her leg, right? And just completely snapped it in half. So she has rods going through it and screws and all kinds of crap. And and today was the first day that she was able to put weight on it. And so me being the awesome older brother to her, I sent her a picture of the Life Alert woman saying I've fallen, I can't get up, and I was like, "Hey, is that you?"
Oh, jeez.
She sent one back, and it was Medea holding a gun, saying, "I'd have smack you, I'd have punch you in the face." So as things progressed through there, a picture of Ryan Gosling got put up, and it said, "Hey girl, you're rocking that broken leg." So I found that picture of Ryan Gosling with no teeth. You know what I'm talking about? Where they removed his teeth.
Nope, but to the internet.
Yeah. Well, these people have removed his teeth. And I said,
You found it too quick.
And I said, well, I made my own meme and said, "Hey girl, you're walking that broken leg."
Oh my god!
So, actually, if you Google just Ryan Gosling no teeth, you get a lot of celebrities with their teeth photoshopped.
Oh, have you not?
It is really
have you not
funny.
seen that? That's one of the funniest things. This is one of those things that this is why the internet was made, man. This is why the internet was created.
Yeah, this is a darker corner than I expected it to be.
That Andrew Garfield, it's terrifying. Yeah. He looks like
but long story short,
Drake.
Long story short, it took my kid a long time to go to sleep because he fell asleep with a little Thomas the Train, rolled over on it, and he's like, "Ow!" And I was like, "What's wrong?" He's like, "I'm laying on the train," and I said, "Well, don't lay on the train." He's like, "Oh, okay."
Right.
He was like, it was like you know how kids get right when they're in and out of sleep. It's like they just kind of say things that make no sense whatsoever. And they just, he just like, "I'm laying on the train." And I'm like, "Well, move it. Don't lay on a train." "Oh, okay."
Okay.
So
we've come together, and we're going to discuss a little bit of Marvel tonight, a little bit of comic book action, and a little bit of Netflix series action. So we've all at least watched one episode of the newest series that has hit Netflix from the Marvel realm, and that is Luke Cage. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I'm
halfway. I'm halfway through the first
series.
episode.
Oh, okay.
No, the first episode. Dude, I had a hurricane, man. I like literally. I'm still rebuilding.
Yeah, man. He had to.
Your shutter.
Yeah, he had to nail back the shutter up.
The first screw went in yesterday.
So, and Jesse, I know you've watched it. So
Yes, sir.
Luke Cage. So Luke Cage is a Marvel character that's been around for some time, since the 70s, if I'm not mistaken. I'll look it up. I've got it on my notes here. But Luke Cage is known as part of the Heroes for Hire, one half of the Heroes for Hire in his time, and with Danny Rand, who's also known as Iron Fist. So in this time, Luke Cage is known as Power Man. He is oh my gosh, the drawings when he's first around are just ridiculous.
Yeah,
man, because he was created in the height of blaxploitation, that film genre, blaxploitation films. Shaft and things like that. He's an ex-convict who was in prison for a crime he didn't commit, and he gains the powers of superhuman strength and unbreakable skin when he was subjected to an involuntary experiment. He got free. He becomes a hero for hire with Iron Fist, and then he later teams up with other people and becomes an Avenger, the new Avenger, and he also was in the Thunderbolts, and he's actually quite an interesting character. He went from the billowy yellow shirt and the tiara and the metal wristbands to just wearing a t-shirt and jeans and having a chain sometimes, and becoming kind of a layered character. He ended up marrying Jessica Jones. They have a child together, and he's kind of in and out of the superheroing business because he wants to be a good dad and a good husband, but he also wants to make the most of the powers that he has. So this was in my opinion, this was a great character for Marvel to grab a hold of and make a Netflix series out of it. We've already seen Daredevil, and we've already seen Jessica Jones. Now we have mixed reviews on Jessica Jones. I liked it to a point. It wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting another superhero show or a show like Daredevil, but it turned out to be more of a detective show than anything, which is cool. So I didn't know what to expect when Luke Cage came around. Josh, what were you thinking? What were your thoughts when you first heard that Luke Cage was going to be the next Marvel property to come on Netflix?
I didn't know much about the character before this, to be honest. Like I read New Avengers back in the mid 2000s, I guess it was, and he wasn't. I don't know that he was a mainstay, but he showed up a lot. But I'm always up for learning about characters that I don't know a whole lot about. But having watched the other Netflix series that Marvel's put out, all of which I'm a huge fan of. Like I love Jessica Jones, and I didn't know anything at all about that character beforehand. But just the street level heroes and street level crime and street level type aspect that they're doing in the Netflix series versus the movies, and I love the movies. It feels like they're more organic. It feels like they can do more. It feels more real. Like it's not a bunch of aliens and laser powers and stuff that is not really identifiable. So
okay.
I was up for it. I was pretty excited for it. The first 4 episodes that I've watched have been really, really solid.
Jesse, now he mentioned street level, and that is your name, Street Level Sarge.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your thoughts when you first heard Luke Cage was going to be the next Marvel property?
Very similar to what Josh had said, where, again, this is a character that I'm not – I can tell you I've probably maybe read a handful of things that this guy's been in. The thing that stands out to me the most, really, I can even remember Luke Cage being in was a series called Secret War. Now, not Secret Wars. This was a Secret War where I think he was married to Jessica Jones at the time, and an explosion happens, and he gets thrown out of the building, and he's in a coma, and there's all sorts of there's some crazy espionage going on. I don't know if you guys have read the series, but it's like a 4 or 5, maybe 6 issue series It sets up, I think, the events for Civil War, or at least it falls into that. So, anyway, that's about the. He ends up getting put into a coma in that particular book. So, Jessica Jones, I had no idea about. Didn't know what the character was about. Did not know the villain, and they made that series something that I was tuning in as quick as I could to binge those next 2 or 3 episodes, especially with the villain, of course, being David Tennant playing Purple Man.
He was so good.
That guy, probably one of the best roles. I mean, Ronnie, you know I'm a Doctor Who fan. I know you are too.
Oh,
and
yeah, such a fan.
I am.
Well,
I like it.
Tennant was awesome.
I'm outnumbered.
Yes, you are. Sir.
Tennant was the best. I'll go ahead and say it. Tennant was the best.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that.
Okay, let me
throw
this out there.
I haven't moved on to Matt Smith or anybody yet, so we're good.
Quick rabbit trail. Doctor Who. I gave Doctor Who a chance, and I enjoyed most of it. But it's the crazy fans that really turned me off of it. Doctor Who could beat up Superman. Defeat
come
Superman.
on!
Doctor
No, I've never had that
Dude,
argument.
that's not even the show, though.
But they do it.
The Doctor would. He wouldn't beat up Superman. He wouldn't beat up Superman because that's not what he does. He's not.
Doesn't matter.
That's not what he does.
It doesn't matter, Adam. That's all. That your point is moot because right now you're preaching to the choir.
I'm making your point for you.
Thank you.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that these crazed fans are what turned me off of it, and I can't get into it. You know that, and the whole sonic screwdriver thing weirds me out.
See, the big thing, like I had a really pretty strong hump to get over with Doctor Who because my wife was really big into Doctor Who, and she was like, we should like jump on, and we jumped on with the Matt Smith series, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's a sci-fi show. That's awesome. I love sci-fi. So we jumped in, and I'm expecting like Star Trek type logical approaches and like justifiable science.
Not happening.
Yeah, right.
No,
so
not at all.
So like 1 or 2 episodes in, I'm like, whoa, how are they going to explain what he just did? And she's like, no, this isn't that type of science fiction. I was like, oh. And so, like, there were a couple other things would happen sci-fi, and I was like, well, how are they going to just, like, I kept asking too many stupid, like, logical questions because that's not what the show's about, you know?
You could not. You have to suspend reality for the show.
So like, it probably took me, like, 3 episodes, like, all right, I get it. And a couple episodes after that, like, I was all in, and I was just having a lot of fun.
Okay. So, back to Purple Man.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just going to make I was going to that comparison, though, is that Jessica Jones is a character that I didn't know much about. Luke Cage, similar story. So I'm ready to give any Netflix Marvel property a chance. They've earned that, in my opinion. So when I heard that Luke Cage was coming out, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm going to watch it. If it's anything like the other ones, I'm sold.
Now, Adam, what was your first thought?
My first thought was, why Luke Cage? You know, why are they picking these obscure characters to make entire series of? And I'm not saying obscure as in like Daredevil, because Daredevil's not really an obscure character. I mean, he had like one movie, maybe two movies. I don't know. Did he have 2 movies? 1 movie?
1 movie.
You know, so you had that, and then you had Jessica Jones, which I'd never heard of. I've never heard of Jessica Jones before this came out, and I had no desire to even watch that series. I sit down to watch it, and I'm reading on Facebook, and people are like, "Oh, this sucks." Blah blah. I'm like, "Oh well, I'm sure there's something else I need to watch." But Luke Cage, I'm about halfway through the first episode, and I'm intrigued, because I think the best way to put it is, he is a street level character, but he does have that human aspect to him that, like, he has like really tough skin, which kind of sounds stupid, but it actually is really kind of cool. You know what I mean? Like the Hulk has tough skin. You know what I mean?
Your setup here for why these characters is, and Ronnie, I don't know if he's getting to this or not, but I believe they're going to be doing a series of the Defenders. Now, Adam, have you ever heard of the Defenders before?
Yes, I have heard of them, but I haven't read any of the Defenders comics though.
Yeah, I could tell you, I don't think I may have read like maybe 3 or 4 myself.
I have both DC and the Marvel encyclopedias. So, and I've gone through those to kind of get caught up on some of these characters, but. Like with for instance, like the Flash. Like I'll watch an episode of the Flash, and there'll be like a villain on there, like what's the shark guy from? Was it Sharkman or whatever? Yes, from there. And I'm like, I'd never heard of these guys, so I'll go and I'll look for them in the encyclopedia. Same goes for Luke Cage. I'd never heard of this guy, and I'm thinking to myself, he has tough skin. Okay, it's like the concept to me.
I think
it's like, but it's like for a very short amount of time though, right?
No, he's pretty much unbreakable. Like the cool thing that they did to add a little bit of intrigue for Luke Cage, I think, was kind of introducing him back in Jessica Jones. So if you watch Jessica Jones, in my opinion, like there was just enough going on with Luke Cage where I was like, I would kind of like to know what that's all about, because they referenced a couple little things in his life. In Jessica Jones, and you're like, whoa, really? That's all we're going to get of that? And I can't remember if when Jessica Jones came out, they had already announced that Luke Cage was getting a series, or if that was announced during Jessica Jones after it came out, or whatnot. I think it was
during.
Yeah, I couldn't remember, but like if it makes it's really impressive, really, the way they're laying all this out in that regard, because if it was just like, here's a Luke Cage series, like most people would be like, all right, like what's going to make me want to watch that? Whereas they kind of already laid out the plan for it, and then you've kind of got some glimpses into some of his backstory with his wife having passed away, which just doesn't give anything away that's already shown in Jessica Jones, not to give spoilers or anything, but like that's, you've kind of got like these little pieces, like you got like a trail of breadcrumbs that leads you to the series, basically.
Right, exactly. Now, I would say between the two, between Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, he is definitely the least obscure character because of the New Avengers, because he was made part of the main roster in some of the Avengers titles, and so they've really captured the in my opinion, they captured the essence of who Luke Cage is now, and it was really funny because in one of the first episodes, I can't remember which one, they show him escaping from prison, and he's got this weird greenish yellow shirt on, and he had parts of the machine that they used, and it made 2 metal cuffs and a tiara on his head, and he looks at himself in a window, and he sees his reflection. He goes, "Man, you look like a fool." He starts taking all this stuff off.
That's the episode I just finished, I think, where they kind of go through that origin, and it's like there's a lot of cool throwbacks to that blaxploitation stuff without it being blaxploitation.
Right, and that was my next question. Do you think that it's honoring its blaxploitation roots as far as that goes? Because to me, it feels like a 70s style setup at times. With the way it's filmed, with the way it's especially with the way it's shot, and but they have modern day like hip hop music in there, and then and of course they're not as overtly. I guess I don't know if you can or not, but you can almost deem those movies now as racist.
Dude, those movies are totally racist.
Yeah, that was honestly like that was one of my big fears for Luke Cage. After reading it, I'm like, oh man. Like, this might upset some people, because I was doing some research on it, and back, Jesse, to your point about Purple Man, that's what intrigued me about this whole thing. I'm like, oh, okay, so to me, this is one of those closet awesome, TV shows / series that just turns out to be just this really awesome storyline. Like Stranger Things. Stranger Things would turn out to be just phenomenal.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So I'm hoping that this is the same thing. Like I said, I'm halfway through the first episode. But I was reading about it, and I was like, man, this could get some people into some trouble if they're not careful.
I can tell you right now that the social, I don't want to call it a social agenda, but it was more a not a nod either, because you can't just say that was a nod in any way. The way that they did these episodes, it's the politics and the I don't know if I call that politics, but I'm trying to figure out a way to word this right. But there are many. We'll just say nods. There are many nods to racism in this, in these episodes, to black culture and how, people are, not just whites, but I mean just how they were treating each other. And I'm not calling it a bad thing. It was almost jarring to me because watching this show, and it wasn't a bad thing. It was just it threw me. It made me go, this is different to what I'm used to watching in a Marvel series. Yeah. The N-word. I don't know how many times the N-word was used in this particular show, but
yeah, but I mean
that I know that's that's that
just
culture.
Real life. That's
real life, and it almost took me aback. Like, wow, and there was. I don't know who directed this. Do you guys have any idea who the director was? I assume they did all the internet knows.
Yeah, you heard me typing.
We're all Googling right now.
There's actually 11 different directors.
Is there really?
Or 12
Well,
different
it's like anything else. Like it's like any TV show. They have a director for every different episode, but it's not really mostly about the directors as much as it is about the writers.
Yeah.
And the creators and I mean the creator Chio Hodari Coker. Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about that guy, but I mean there's a lot of really interesting references, and it's really interesting to hear you say that, Jesse, that like it kind of was jarring for you. Like I didn't.
Well, okay.
But here, let's all be fair and honest here too. Like we're all like suburban / rural. Like
this is Harlem. Yeah, this is Harlem.
We don't get any of. Yeah, we don't get any of it like at all. It's just not something that we get.
And one thing that I was wanting to point out at some point as we're talking about the series is that like I really want this to do well. I don't want this. I hope it's not like modern blaxploitation or anything like that. I would be really interested to know what like the modern African American culture thinks about this. If they're comic book fans, like just in general, like I thought it was cool, but they got this wrong, or I didn't like it because of this. I would be really interested to kind of do my own research and kind of understand that a little bit better.
Yeah, in my opinion, I don't think it was blaxploitation in any way. I think it was more along the lines of the people that directed these episodes and the overarching storyline, I mean, kept it real within the culture and the city that Luke Cage is in. I mean, I've never been to Harlem. I don't know. I wouldn't know my ass from the hole in the ground. Excuse my language. If I got there, and seeing something like this was, they didn't sugarcoat it.
From my point of view, I thought it felt real. I thought it felt accurate, but again, I don't know anything about the level of accuracy, so I don't have a frame of reference.
I would agree with you.
It's been a really I've been impressed with it. Like it feels good.
I would agree because I think we us four were a little more nervous than we ever needed to be about it coming out. And I don't think anybody really had any kind of any preconceived notions about it or anything like that, because when I first heard it was coming out, my initial reaction was, oh, awesome, another hero. Mm-hmm. My main idea of Luke Cage and my main exposure came in. It was the storyline where the Avengers, where the raft was being broken out of by Electro, and they had to fight all these superpowered villains. and the Avengers. It was right after Disassembled, and so they all went to the raft. And it was Captain America. It was Luke Cage. It was Iron Man, and they were fighting in Sentry. That was when Sentry ripped Carnage in half, so Purple Man got out, and he was trying to control Luke Cage. And he's standing there eating an apple, and he's like, I want you to do, I forget what it was. It was like, I want you to choke yourself or something like that, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to visit that wife of yours and blah, blah, blah. I was like, there is some history between Purple Man and Jessica Jones, I forget what name she went by as she was doing her superhero gig. But so
trying to figure out what her alias was.
Yeah.
Woo! Hey, Josh, welcome to the show. Hope you like puns.
So
I do not.
The Punisher.
He does not. The Punisher. Sweet little story. So I was sitting there going, there's some histories, because then Luke Cage turns around and goes, you, after all you've done to me and my family, or after all you've done to my family, to my wife, you're going to make that, you're going to say that. And he beats Purple Man within an inch of his life. He has to stop himself from killing him. And so I was like, I need to research this. And then I got into, Alias, the comic with Jessica Jones, and how Purple Man was a wretched soul.
Was that, was that Bendis, by the way?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Bendis was both of them.
Okay.
And it was, and that's where that all these layers came in for both characters. So I was pretty excited about it. So what I've watched of it, I've watched probably about 4 or 5 episodes, maybe a little more, and I've enjoyed it. I really have. And they've really done. They picked the right actor for Luke Cage. I couldn't have picked a better person to play.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, Mike Coulter, and they've added some. This is where my history on Luke Cage needs to get a little better, because I don't know of any. I can't remember of any prior relationship. I'm sure they did with Misty Knight, but they've got Misty Knight in there. She's doing a great job as Misty.
Yeah, these are all apparently like well-established, not well-established, of course, but like these are all established characters in like apparently the Luke Cage lexicon.
Yeah, Misty Knight is another detective, and she actually is missing an arm in the comic books, so she has a robotic arm that gives her super strength in that arm. But she did the Heroes for Hire thing for a while with Misty Knight. I think Black Cat was in there, and I can't remember the third person. So they had a female Heroes for Hire.
I know who you're talking about too. I've read a couple issues with all 3 of them in it, and I cannot remember their name.
So, it was. They've got some good. They've got some definitely some great.
Some of these old Heroes for Hire teams are like right up my alley.
Yeah, they really are. That's what I was thinking.
This is looking awesome.
So Human Torch, Ant-Man, Black Knight, Hercules, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, She-Hulk, Athena, White Tiger 2, Misty Knight, Colleen Wing. That's who it was. Black
there you
Cat,
go.
Gargoyle, Humbug. Right there you go, Josh Clanders. Orca, who was actually a villain. Paladin, who is one of the best underrated D characters ever.
I like Paladin.
He's been in the Defenders, Heroes for Hire, the Intruders, the Thunderbolts, and the Wild Pack.
Awesome.
Real. Yeah, he's not. He doesn't have any real superpowers or anything like that. Just slightly superhuman strength. Shroud, Tarantula 4, and Vienna. I mean, gosh, they've got so many.
Yeah, I need to.
Yeah,
start buying some books.
You need to start doing your buying some back catalogs on that. But so they've got the whole mythos of Luke Cage, his back catalog. They got Diamondback, they've got Misty Knight, they've got the whole thing, and of course we see Luke Cage as the reluctant hero through the whole thing until circumstances being what they are, he sees his mentor gunned down in the middle of the barbershop that is, you know, an unchanging, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a staple. It's a cornerstone of the community that he is in. And they go and they gun down his mentor. You know, Pops is his name, and so from there on, he's like, no, I'm going to hit it head on. So that's where we get the superheroing that really starts. And I will say this: Marvel Netflix series love their hallway fight scenes.
Yeah, they really do.
Yes, because they're awesome.
Well, I mean, you've got the whole hallway. You know, every hallway ever in Hell's Kitchen has been torn apart by Daredevil, and then you got the hallway fight scene with the Punisher in Daredevil series where he decimates 900 people in one. And then
wonderful.
It's just a phenomenal fight scene. And John Bernthal is a fantastic Frank Castle, and I pray that they give him his own series. They actually are giving him his own series. And then all of a sudden you got Luke Cage, who is just Breaking Bad on everybody, and he decides the best way to fight Diamondback is to hit him head on and start tearing down his whole operation, which is drugs and everything else. He's in the middle of it. So he's not quiet about it at all. He, in fact, throws people through walls and throws a couch out in the middle of the street through a window. So
that's the one I watched the one after that one, because the one after that one, they kind of jump into his prison origin.
Yeah. So they've got the whole thing, because what I've read of Luke Cage, he's not subtle in the least. If he doesn't go into a situation with his fists flying, he doesn't go into a situation, period. Because, I mean, that's him. He's super strong, and
why not?
And he has unbreakable skin. Exactly. They retconned it in the series from skin of steel to titanium skin. So, he shrugs off bullets, and, people hit him with pool cues, and he just laughs at them. There's one scene in a church where Pop's funeral, and this young lady has brought a pistol, and she hides it in her purse, and she's going to kill the main bad guy in front of everyone. So he just reaches down and he grabs her purse and he just squeezes real hard, and then he gets up, and when she goes to get her pistol out, it's bent in half. Just things like that. He doesn't he doesn't do anything halfway. He just goes in, balls to the wall, and takes it head on, which I love, and I love that about the character, because it is street level, it's street justice. I mean, he doesn't, it doesn't hold anything back. It's not like Josh says, not aliens and lasers and things falling out of the sky, It's just, he is there to clean up the streets and make it a little bit better where he lives. And I think, in my opinion, they've got another hit on their hands, and I know, Josh, you've enjoyed it. I want to get Jesse's point of view, because he does have a differing point of view on some of it. So, Jesse, what do you think of the series thus far?
Okay. I honestly, after watching all 13 episodes, this to me felt like it's probably one of the weakest of the Netflix series out there. A lot of it, I think, is because it really felt like a slow burn at some points. I was just looking at I think it's CBR.com, where they were talking about 15 things that did and did not work in the series. And one of them kind of supports what I was talking about, where it 13 episodes for this character for some reason just felt too long. It felt really stretched out. There were so many points where I was like, okay, we're back at the barbershop and he's getting it fixed up now. And we're talking about the barbershop some more. And there was a lot of unnecessary filler. Okay. That's probably the strongest case I could make against it. But as for it being the strengths of the series, I believe, as little as I know about Luke Cage, I feel like this is pretty, it's pretty true to the character and the setting that this character is in. there are some special effects. What I wanted from this series was Luke Cage to go, and I wanted him whipping butt every episode. When we watched Daredevil, we didn't get a whole lot of that, but we were, for some reason, I felt more satisfied when with Daredevil when it came to, the action sequences. Mm-hmm. And in this in this show, it didn't feel like there was enough of that for me. Now, our good buddy Mark Radulich says he puts this up there with The Wire. And if you ever listen to Mark Radulich talk about The Wire, that is the best show on television ever.
Yeah, anybody that talks about The Wire says that.
So it's if Luke Cage is up there like that in his book, I've not seen one episode of The Wire, but from what I understand, it's a police or like a crime drama. Have any of you guys seen episodes of The Wire?
I haven't, but I've got several close friends that like it really well, and a big part of it is the crime, but it's real. The series is really about the city.
Okay.
And it's really almost like the city is the main character, and each season is a different view on the city. Like one season it's the police, the next season it's the city government, the next season it's a different piece of whatever they're driving through as the overall narrative that is all about the city. So that's pretty unique in that regard. But I think the first season was the police, and people were like, "Oh my God, this show!" So it kind of got the reputation for being a police show.
Okay, well, I can see the parallels there from what you're saying to Luke Cage, because the city is the main focal point of this show, mm-hmm. and how it reacts to the fact that there is a man amongst them that is super powered. And how the public reacts to that. That's a main portion.
And the crime and the city government aspect of it, and there's a lot of Harlem in the show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think it is still a good series. I believe it's stretched too thin, but I think it does the character justice. So there's my final thoughts on the series itself.
Cool. My big question, and I've seen, over half of it, and I love it, and I think it's got some really good things to come, from me. But my question is this: when are we going to see Danny Rand?
They just released the first trailer for that.
Did they?
Yeah.
At what was it? New York Comic-Con last week.
Yep.
I need to listen to news more.
It looks pretty cool.
So are they going to introduce him as a character on Luke Cage, or are they going to?
No, he's going to have his own series. As far as cameos on Luke Cage this season, mm-hmm. It's a negative.
Dang it.
Sorry.
See, that's interesting though, because it's like I was saying earlier. Like Luke Cage showed up in Jessica Jones pretty strongly.
Yeah. Within the first episode.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that I think was a detriment in my opinion. The problem is that I don't know the characters that revolve around him. Misty Knight. Yeah, she's obviously a main character in this. His villains, but what were we getting with Daredevil? We were getting the Punisher. With Jessica Jones, we got Luke Cage.
Well, I think they're treating this with kids' gloves, because I think that your mainstream current comic book fan doesn't know much about that. That's why, and plus, it's like we were saying earlier. Like I think that, at least from my lack of, overall understanding view of it, like I think they are doing in the 4 or 5 episodes I've watched so far, they've done the race aspect pretty well. But like, let's be honest, like race is a big deal in this country right now. And I think that might be another aspect where they wanted to say, let's kind of just focus on the storyline. Let's focus on the content. Let's get this right. And I mean, again, I don't know a lot about Luke Cage. I don't think that his entire history has a lot of these. He doesn't have a Punisher. You know, I mean, everybody knows the Punisher.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't have.
Well,
he doesn't. You know, I mean, he doesn't have all these other side characters that everybody's gonna be like, man, when's this person gonna show up? Except for Iron Fist. So I was gonna say Iron Fist. Shot all my stuff all to hell just now. Just shot my whole argument down. So.
Just throw something in there. Throw the avid Marvel fans a bone. You know, I stopped watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. probably right before the end of the first season. Yeah. All right. Ghost Rider is supposedly going to be showing up in these new episodes. Which she's driving a car. I won't get into that. I don't know about all that, but
that's part of the reinvention of the comic book character too, though. Okay, they're doing a lot of these episodes or TV shows and movies along with what they want to do with the comic. So that's just the next iteration of the comic book version.
Okay, so we got Ghost Rider showing up there. Do you know how bad I want to get back into and catch up with watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Like last season or the season before that, I don't even know how many seasons they're into now. But they started going all in on the Inhumans, and I was like, man, if they start doing actual pretty long-term Inhumans characters, I'm going to be pissed off that I don't know what's going on. If Black Bolt shows up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I'm going to be livid with myself. But dude, that first season was so hard to get through. It sucked.
That's why you had Colby Smolder or whatever, Maria Hill. You had Sam Jackson as Nick Fury, and they all showed up, and just kind of to help it along. As you go along, though, it's a slow burn with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because you do have to get caught. I mean, you do have to bear with it. You do have to realize what they're trying to do, because there is a huge back catalog of characters that they could use. I mean, they've got daggone Deathlock involved now. I mean, my goodness.
Have they done Dum Dum Dugan yet? Because
man, I wish.
Okay, all right. I was going to say if you say they've introduced Dum Dum Dugan, I want to start up on it again tomorrow because that's silly.
And he's an LMD now, so.
What's that?
A life model
decoy.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
he's a robot, eh?
A robot. You're not dude. I don't know why Robot has made a comeback, but I have heard it over and over for the past month.
I've said robot for years, dude. That's the funniest thing.
He really has.
I will be doing that from here on out.
Ronnie. Yeah, he really has. It's ridiculous.
Well, you have.
It's true.
And it is. No, it's not.
It is. No, it's absolutely ridiculous. It really is. It's awesome.
So Luke Cage, as far as I'm concerned, they've hit another. They've at least a triple play, if not a home run, and or inside the park. They haven't. They didn't knock it out of the park, but they've hit an inside the park home run with some. For me, I've enjoyed it. Luke Cage is not for having a character that is not as well known as Daredevil, as Captain America, as Hulk and Thor and all these others. Daredevil is pretty well established, and unfortunately, part of that establishment was the Ben Affleck movie, which I will still defend to this day, somewhat, a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, it was as good as I think Ben Affleck was really good with the material he was given.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's pretty much as far as I'm going to go with
it. Yeah, Elektra was just a god awful movie, but
never seen it.
Don't ever. But as far as Luke Cage goes, I mean, not a lot of people know him. I mean, he's a little more well known than we'll say Moon Knight or even Iron Fist. But not a lot of people are into him. But being one of the few African American superheroes that doesn't have black in the title of his name,
seriously,
he does stand out a little bit more. You have Black Panther, Black Goliath, Black Lightning, and I'm like, why? Can't they just be Panther? Well,
but that's all from blaxploitation though. All those characters originated during that time, and it's like, well, they're black, so
We gotta call him. We gotta
so
call him
lazy.
We've got to draw attention to it.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so blatant.
Well, you look at Bill Foster. Bill Foster was Goliath. He was an intelligent man in his own right, and he was, he was a genius, and he was, I think he was a lab assistant to, if I'm not mistaken, he was a lab assistant to Henry Pym. That's why he knows so much about Pym particles, and he was passed down the Pym particles, and he became, he has the powers of Giant Man. So instead of becoming the new Giant Man or just Goliath, they were like, hey, call him Black Goliath. And he had about a 5-issue run before it was canceled. And for a long time, they were calling him Goliath. And now it went back to Black Goliath. And then fake Thor shot him through the chest with a lightning bolt. And he's dead.
Wah. And no one stood trial for it.
No. But,
even though it was Reed's fault.
Yes. But, you shoot...
I digress.
You shoot an arrow through Bruce Banner's eye, and they all go crazy.
Yeah, it's a harsh comparison to make, although true.
Why is that harsh? Why is that a harsh comparison?
Because one of the implications is that, like, you've got Hulk's not black.
Oh, well, I didn't mean that. I just meant he was more well known. But yeah, but that is an implication.
Yeah, awkward.
Hulk was gray at one time.
Yeah, and no, Red's a different person, right?
Red is completely a different person.
Yeah, I've not read anything about the Red Hulk. I'm really trying to draw different topic here.
That would be General Thunderbolt Ross.
Man,
sure, yeah,
bad.
No, it's not bad. It's still, I mean, we're good. So, but Luke Cage in the Netflix series, they've hit a home run. For me, I enjoy it. I think they've done a phenomenal job with it. They could not have gotten a better actor. He really portrays Luke Cage, not as just a comic book character, but he's giving him those levels that Luke Cage, or those layers that Luke Cage actually has in the book that certain writers like Bendis and a few others have given him. So he plays it up to that, and I think he goes far beyond anything that you could ever ask for as an actor. So I can't wait to see what they're going to do with that, with the rest of it. Once I finish the series, I cannot wait to see what they're going to do with the Defenders. As far as Jessica Jones goes, I want her to be happy, so I want her to marry Luke Cage and have a baby, but she's so.
She's miserable.
She's an alcoholic.
I think it's going to take a while. They really need to develop that for her, for the character, for that to make sense in the TV show, I think.
Yeah, that's true. So, the only way she's ever going to be happy is when she, actually finally gets together with Luke Cage. So, I think for anybody out there who's looking for something different, another superhero / street level justice story, you by all means start watching Luke Cage right now. So we've gone through all these kind of almost obscure references to these superheroes like Moon Knight, like Luke Cage, and I can hear Josh kind of getting ready for this.
Well, before we do that, I think you mentioned Moon Knight. Uh-huh. I think if they really wanted to do like you remember the Marvel Max series, which is kind of like their Vertigo, like they're a little bit more serious, like they harder take on life type. Yeah, like if they wanted to do that right, they should absolutely do a Netflix series for Moon Knight, because, dude, like not that it's super violent or gory, but you could do such awesome like mind screwy stuff with him.
Oh yeah,
and all of his different personalities, and the current Moon Knight comic book series does that so well. Like as a reader, you don't know what's actually happening in the book. Like if you're reading, if what Moon Knight's going through is actually reality or if it's all in his head, and they can do that so well in a TV show, and then kind of tie that into what he's doing on a street level type aspect with what they've developed. But I digress.
No, it's completely true. I mean, they've got so many characters that, because they went down this road with Daredevil, the Punisher, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist. They've got all these awesome characters like Moon Knight and a few others that they can explore with, and they can make really good series out of. And you know, like you said, Moon Knight is definitely one of them. I would like to see Misty Knight and, you know, Black Cat and a few, you know, I'd like to see that series. I'd like to see him, you know, explore, at least, you know, do a cameo, or, you know, not a cameo, but be, you know, reoccurring characters. I don't know if you know, they have, you know, something in store with the Black Cat character with, you know, Spider-Man Homecoming coming out, but it would be really cool to see, you know, Misty Knight and her partner, you know, as the new heroes for hire. You know, they've got so many cool things that they can actually go with.
They're building a really cool web that they can really intertwine if they do it the right way.
Well, I mean, and they mention, you know, the movies, and in all three series they've made mention to the event, or whatever they call it, you know, in New York.
The incident
in New York, where, you know, you see things flying out of the sky and falling out of the sky, and heroes battling, you know. But it's not revolving around that. They'll make mention of it because it is in the same universe and it is the same people. So if they decide to do one gigantic, crazy movie with all these characters, you know, they will play those characters in the movie. These actors will play those characters. So they make mention of it, but it doesn't revolve around that. It revolves around their character story at that time and what they're doing with it. And I really like that. I like the fact that it's just about Harlem, you know, and what he's doing to improve the situation there, you know, with Luke Cage. I like the fact that Hell's Kitchen is always in danger, so Daredevil's always there to clean it up with, you know, Wilson Fisk and, you know, and everything going on with it, and Jessica Jones, nobody really knows what she's doing, but she's because she's just so miserable all the freaking time.
Drinking.
She's just drinking, you know, and beating the crap out of Purple Man, but so they've created their own little world that's part of a bigger picture. So I really like what they're, you know, Marvel Studios and Netflix are doing with this. So they've got so many of these characters they can explore and they can add in, and they can make cameos or different shows, or, you know, they can just throw in there and really enjoy and have some fun with. And one of those characters could or could not be. She probably wouldn't mix in well with the darker tone of the Netflix series, but she's been getting some press of late. One of those obscure characters that started out in the early '90s and was actually made into you know, she joined a team. We won't say a good team.
I like that you stumbled over it, like it pained you even to call them a team.
I'm talking about the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, Doreen Green. So this is something I know Josh has been chomping at the bit to talk about, and we're going to take a look at the first kind of story arc that I was familiar with in the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, which was what year was that released, Josh?
Are we talking about the current series?
No, the one we read.
It's not very old. I mean, it's 6 years, 5 years, if that.
Oh, no, I'm heading there right now. Unbeatable Squirrel Girl,
2015.
Yeah, so 1 year.
Yeah, it's been a year.
Ooh, no, well, so they renamed it twice, or they didn't rename it, but it was okay. You know, yeah, January 2015. Okay.
Yeah. So now that we've got that straight, we got the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl who sees herself. She just wants to be. Well, in this storyline, she just wants to be, you know, a hero and a normal college girl. I have to ask, I'm not familiar with Squirrel Girl other than a few things that I've read here or there. I know, Josh, that you are pretty familiar with the character. How old is Doreen Green supposed to be? Is she a college
Well,
age?
I mean, yeah. I mean, in this book, she's college age, but it's to be completely honest, this is really the first time that they ever actually explored, like, how old is she? What does she do? Like, what are her interests? Like this, that, and the other thing. So, like, before this, her age was never really specified to that point. It was always kind of implied, like, maybe late teens, maybe early 20s, maybe late 20s, kind of in that Peter Parker, maybe he's 60, maybe he's 16. You know, like, it was never really specified.
Because what I've read, what I've read of her, she's shown up in the Avengers comics several times because she is tied into Luke Cage and Jessica Jones because she is their babysitter in the Avengers mansion. And that's basically the only tie to the Avengers she really has, other than the other team that she's in, and that's only by name, the Great Lakes Avengers. We'll talk about them more a little bit later. But the only thing that the reason I asked this question is because she's of course the babysitter for Luke Cage and Jessica Jones' baby girl, and Wolverine walked into the mansion, and he just looks over and says, "Doreen," and she goes, "Logan." He goes, "What are you doing here?" She goes, "I work here. I'm the babysitter for their babysitter." And he goes, "I thought we agreed never to see each other again." I'm like, what? Wolverine. They had some sort of what is going on?
I don't know what that is. I think I might be completely wrong on this, but that might be one of the characters that she's beaten to a pulp off panel. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's beaten a whole lot of these characters up off panel that is kind of assumed or hinted at, but somebody else has seen and vouched for, but it doesn't actually show it. Like Galactus or Doctor Doom or Thanos or all these characters that, like, there's no way a Squirrel Girl should beat.
Right. I thought it had romantic undertones to it. I could have been wrong. I could have been way off the mark there. Because later on in the same book, I think, or a couple books later or something like that, they actually have a sparring session. And she beats Wolverine. Because they have a no-claws, Dorian Green, okay, we'll just say this. She is the Squirrel Girl. She is Squirrel Girl because her powers are that of a squirrel. Which sounds really lame, but actually it's not bad. It's not as bad as everybody thinks. Squirrel Girl apparently has some sort of level of superhuman strength, which kind of weirds me out. But she has superhuman agility, senses, and strength, a prehensile tail, razor-sharp claws, retractable knuckle spikes, and the ability to communicate with squirrels. Now, the ability to communicate with squirrels, she doesn't telepathically link to them like, Aquaman and fish. She can speak their language. She can understand their language, and apparently the squirrels understand her when she speaks English to them.
Yeah, they just talk back and forth.
They just talk back and forth. She's speaking English, they're speaking squirrel. And she had a squirrel sidekick named Monkey Joe, and apparently Monkey Joe passed away.
Rest in peace.
And then, so she got a new squirrel sidekick, a female squirrel named Tippy Toe. So Tippy Toe is her companion who is always with her and is always talking her into or out of crazy situations. She is one of the more underrated, misunderstood, assumed heroes in the Marvel Universe because she has defeated the likes of Thanos, Doctor Doom, Galactus. How does she beat Galactus?
Keep reading the series and you'll read it because that's actually one of the story arcs.
I was going to say.
No, it's right there in the first story arc. But
okay, is it in the first one?
Yeah, it's right there. But she also she beat Doctor Doom, and I didn't read that story arc, but she has beaten Doctor Doom. She beat Thanos. Apparently, that was off panel, so we don't know how she beat Thanos, but she beat Thanos.
Thanos is the one. I think she beat Thanos, and the only one that can vouch for it is the Watcher because he watches.
So she apparently is a highly skilled hand-to-hand combatant because she beat Wolverine in hand-to-hand combat, no claws. They said they agreed to no claws, and she got so upset with him in the middle of this sparring session that she had amassed an army of squirrels to attack him, and they had to, Luke Cage had to bring her down to, like, Doreen, knock it off. And she looked around, and she had all these rabid squirrels ready to tear Wolverine to pieces. And you're like, she may not be the loser that they...
That's actually kind of horrifying. Yeah,
that's terrifying, yeah.
I would not want that to happen to me.
She was part of the Great Lakes Avengers. Josh, I'm going to let you take this and tell us a little bit about the Great Lakes Avengers.
So the Great Lakes Avengers were this team that was created in, I guess it was the 90s, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know at the time if it was serious or if it was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek seriousness before comics could actually be laugh-out-loud funny whenever because I'm of the opinion right now we're basically in the golden age of comic book writing. You can't go back to the 60s, 50s, 70s, 80s and find story arcs like we've had in the past 10, 15 years. That's just my opinion. And so with this improved writing talent, you can have comic books nowadays where you can read and you can actually laugh out loud, and they're genuinely comedy, funny books. Whereas you do it in the 90s, actually the late 80s. This was 1989. The Great Lakes Avengers were introduced, and then Squirrel Girl jumped on to a later iteration of them. But they were introduced in West Coast Avengers, which I'm a huge fan of. I love these B, C, D level teams, characters, etc. And so they were introduced as these really, really D, F level superheroes that were well, there's two different Avengers teams. They've got the East and the West Coast. We'll get the middle. We'll be the Great Lakes Avengers. And they are terrible. There's the original leader was Mr. Immortal. His power is that he's immortal. You can kill him, but he's gonna come back. But that's it. He's not strong. He's not smart. He has nothing.
He's a normal guy who's immortal. I think we've mentioned him on here before. Literally, all you have to do is break his legs.
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah, he's done, and he can't get into the fight.
So the original team was Mr. Immortal. You had this ridiculous character whose first name was Dinah and her last name was Soar, and she was basically a flying dinosaur. You had this woman whose superhero name was Big Bertha, she was basically the Blob, but can change her body mass. So she gets big and she gets small, and that's pretty much it. And then you've got somebody that goes by the name of Flat Man, who is basically has the powers of Reed Richards without the crazy intelligence. He just gets flat. That's pretty much it. And then Doorman, who can kind of create these portals and can kind of travel through them, which is actually probably the coolest power of the whole team.
But it's only to the next room.
Yeah, it's pretty sad, really. It's really weak, but still, it's probably the coolest power of all of them.
It's literally, that's why he's called Doorman, because he can make a door to the next room.
It's true. It's fantastic. So at the time, the first iteration of the Great Lakes, the first couple iterations, that 89 introduction and then into the 90s, it was just this is the saddest thing I've ever read. And then they get their own series, a couple 3, 4, 5 issue run. They get a Christmas special in the mid 2000s. And you're starting to get to the point where these are really well written. Whoever's writing these, they know everybody thinks the Great Lakes Avengers is a joke, and they're just trying to make an interesting story out of these characters, because how hard can that be? I mean,
right.
You've got these terrible powers, and these characters' lives are awful because they're trying to be superheroes. They're trying to build a name for themselves because they feel that they can for some reason. And the GLA, it was called GLA in 2005, and it was so good. It was so funny. And then there was do you remember when they started to do the initiative? and like where they started to have like a superhero team for every state.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So like they changed their name, like, oh, well, there's no Avengers anymore, so we'll be the Great Lakes Initiative. And then they had like a what's that?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say they had a team up book with Deadpool in 2007, and it was the Deadpool GLI Summer Fun Spectacular.
Weren't they the Great
awesome.
Lakes of X-Men at one time, and they were served?
I think they were the GLX at one point.
Yes, because they found out that the majority of their team were mutants, so they named themselves. We're not the Avengers anymore, so it can be the Great Lakes of X-Men. And either the Avengers or the X-Men served them with a cease and desist on using. So
I want to say they came into. I want to say they came into some like big superhero meeting or like team meeting, and people were like, yeah, you can't do that. You can't use the X-Men name. That's not something you could just grab and run with like the Avengers. Like the Avengers are nice guys; they'll do that with you. But like Wolverine's not going to be putting up with this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, what better team for the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl than the GLA, Great Lakes Avengers? So,
actually, just real quick,
yeah.
I just read this. When Marvel Girl heard they were calling themselves X-Men, she telepathically influenced Mr. Immortal to change it.
I read somewhere that they were served with a cease and desist.
That's funny. Well, so they've also been the Great Lakes Defenders.
Maybe that's what it was.
And so Mr. Immortal briefly suggested it, and Doctor Strange influenced him into changing it. And then they tried to become the Great Lakes Champions.
Oh, Lord.
And they basically won that title from the Thing, apparently in a poker tournament. And then I think Thing beat Mr. Immortal to death. So they went to Great Lakes. It's been one ridiculous cluster after the other. Man, I haven't read this storyline, but they apparently tried Great Lakes Power Pack at one point.
What?
Oh my God, it's incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing. But it's basically just it's just something for fun. Like it's really funny. Like these characters have no serious significant impact on the Marvel universe, but if you like fun stories and like just fun writing, like there's literally nothing better you can really find in Marvel.
So the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl is kind of in the long lines of Patty Walker Hellcat. Am I saying that title right?
Patsy Walker. Yep.
Patsy Walker Hellcat, and then you've got also one of the titles that you said that genuinely made you laugh out loud, and that was Howard the Duck.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's kind of got more cartoony art. It's funny. I believe it was written by Ryan North,
mm-hmm.
and it was illustrated
Erica Henderson.
So we see Squirrel Girl. She starts out stopping some muggers in the park in issue 1, and she goes back to her secret apartment, which is the attic of Avengers Mansion, and I don't think anybody knows that she lives there.
That is classic right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Squirrels in the attic.
So she goes
I think she is in the attic, actually.
Yeah. She's in the attic of the Avengers Mansion. Nobody knows that she lives there, so she's going to move out and go to college. She actually, the prehensile tail is a part of her body, so she hides it in her pants. She puts her pants on. And she says, I'm sure, Tippy Toe's talking to her. She goes, but thank you. Secret identity. Remember, I'm Dorian Green, completely regular college student who just so happens to have a tail. She says, nope, who knows how to tuck her tail into her pants, and who just happens to appear to have a conspicuously large and conspicuously awesome butt.
Yeah.
And so she makes herself have this incredible rear end. She moves into college. She stops a robbery in progress with an acorn earring and just flips it, knocks the guy out. And she's carrying all these boxes, and she's trying to, still remain inconspicuous about everything, trying to keep her secret identity up. And she moves in, and she has this kind of just kind of a stickler for the rules roommate. So she, you don't know if they're going to get along or not. So it's kind of a, you know, she's, you know, it's college age stuff that she has to deal with. And all of a sudden, Kraven the Hunter shows up. Kraven the Hunter, who is one of Spider-Man's villains, who is, who was a Russian nobleman, and he wanted to prove himself a good hunter, so he takes a serum that gives him like enhanced strength and senses and all that. And he once was, dead, and now he's back. That's a whole different thing with Spider-Man there. So she changes, and she goes to, she goes into battle with Kraven the Hunter. And she actually uses her wits later on to defeat Kraven the Hunter. All while, she's trying to think of how to do it, so she grabs him and she chucks him up into the air and just keeps throwing him up into the air until she finally says, she goes, "I've got it," and catches him. So she tells him to go hunt down the Gigantos, which is a creature that lives in the sea that nobody has really hunted down before. So this is his ultimate big game. So he has to go there, and so she goes, "Once you go and find this, and you'll be the ultimate, the best hunter." This whole thing, as I'm saying, it sounds ridiculous, but it is, and it's so funny because she knows all of her supervillains because she has a deck of cards, a trading cards.
Yeah.
That is some of the greatest parts of this series. These first 5 issues, are her, her Marvel superhero / supervillain / super vehicle cards that give her, created by Deadpool.
Yep, Deadpool gave them to her,
and they are the funnest things to read
because they're all very, very much written in that Deadpool tone.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So through this whole 5 issues in this series, she defeats Kraven the Hunter. She goes and she figures out, Tippy-Toe tells her that Galactus is on his way to eat the Earth. So she breaks into Stark Tower. She steals bits and pieces of an Iron Man suit to create her own Iron Man suit that actually covers her tail as well, to fly into space, to go and do battle with Galactus, not before meeting Whiplash, which was one of Iron Man's, deadly foes. And she just gets into all this craziness. All the, she uses the squirrels to her advantage to defeat Whiplash. She creates herself a squirrel suit of armor to foil a bank robbery. And from there, she
a squirrel suit of armor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now that is what is. I mean, they use that in this series, or not this series, but there's a couple issues. It's just hilarious because at one point, I mean, it's just living squirrels. We got to make sure our listeners understand that they are living squirrels that are just over somebody's body.
Have formed a suit of armor around her body.
And then at one point she exits the armor while these squirrels still remain in place, and they proceed to act like a human or act like a superhero without her being inside. It's just it's
just
so
ridiculous. It's just silliness, it's just silly fun.
It is.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Fun.
Like it's all the seriousness of these Civil War storylines. Like it's the complete antithesis to stuff like that.
Right.
And sorry, one last thing.
You go for it.
We mentioned this is written by Ryan North. I don't know if you guys know much about him. Do you all remember, like in the early mid 2000s, like the dinosaur comics with the big green Tyrannosaurus?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's him.
Oh.
Yeah, Ryan North created dinosaur comics, and that's literally like the first thing that he's ever done, and now he's writing Marvel comics.
Oh, wow.
That's freaking awesome.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, okay. So throughout, I'm not going to go through the whole 5 issues or anything like that. I'm just saying, Squirrel Girl is fastly turning into one of my favorite characters now, because in the first 5 issues of this run, she defeats Kraven the Hunter, she defeats Whiplash, she steals a suit of armor from Tony Stark, who has some of the best defenses in his that you can imagine. And she takes on Galactus and defeats Galactus.
One of the other really cool things that I love about this book is that, like, basically at the very bottom of every single page is basically like the writer's just kind of comments about stuff. And it's all super funny. Like it's basically the glue that holds the book together between like lulls in things that are going on, and like all those are actually really funny.
My favorite moment out of this first volume was the cliffhanger from when she was going to fight Galactus. Okay, and then the beginning of the next issue is her standing on top of Galactus, who's laying prone, and I can't remember what she says. She's like, "Well, that didn't take long," or something like that.
That wasn't so hard after all.
Yeah, that was easier than
She's taking a selfie.
And then you turn the page, and it's the letters column. Like after the first page of that issue, it's then the letters column, and I was like, "Whoa, wait a second!" I seriously thought for a second that was going to be the issue.
It's a really cleverly written book. It's a refreshing take on this universe.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And it's something that I saw in the mid 90s and early 90s, like reading these West Coast Avengers, Great Lakes Avengers books that she wasn't even in yet. You know, I could see what that could have become. Like, this could be really funny. Like, and I've said this before on various episodes that we've done, is that like, that's why this is a perfect example of why I love like these B, C, D level characters, man, because like, you have these characters, like you have a character like Doorman that gets introduced, like, oh, he can make gateways into the next room. That's ridiculously awful, and I have zero interest. But like honestly, like the quality of writing that we have in comics right now, you could have somebody come in and write the darkest storyline for that guy, and he's severely depressive. Like you can develop these characters because they were created at a time when they were throwaways, and now you have people with the amount of talent to where they can be like, I know everything. I just had the greatest idea for this person's entire life. And they could lay that out in a 4-issue storyline. You're like, that was actually a lot cooler than a 4-issue story arc for Doorman should be, you know, or whatever, whoever.
Right.
And now, like, you've got Squirrel Girl has her own book, and it's one of the more popular books in Marvel. Like, it's awesome.
Let me step in here. I want to bring Adam in. Adam, are you still there?
Adam.
Yeah, man. I'm just sitting here enjoying the conversation because I've read the first comic of Squirrel Girl.
Do you read a whole lot of comics? I mean, I know we've kind of talked a little bit about that, but I mean, you're not the biggest comic book reader, right?
No, I mean, I just don't like to read. I'm kidding. I do.
Okay.
I'm kidding. No,
pictures help, though. I mean, comics don't be up your alley.
I just like to look at pictures that move. Usually, it's on the TV screen.
I like the talkies.
What would you prefer, man? Do you prefer like a humorous, a more humorous take on some stuff, or do you like the darker edge?
I love this comic. It reminds me of and to talk about the Great Lakes Avengers. By the way, we talked about them before on this show. And it was like one of the first, maybe I'd say they were one of the first 10 episodes that we talked about, maybe the first 5, but we mentioned them, and the whole conversation was us just laughing the whole time. But yeah, Squirrel Girl is awesome, and I love the whole comedy aspect of all this stuff because it's comics can get really dark. They can get real, and both Marvel and DC have in the past been relatively political in their standings somewhat. So it's really nice to branch out from that and see things like Squirrel Girl and my personal favorite, Deadpool versus the Marvel Universe. Where they is it Kills Marvel Universe, where he talks about like he just kind of goes through, kills everybody, and then the very end he kills the writers.
Yeah,
which one is that?
I think
is that the Punisher?
No, that's Deadpool. Deadpool breaks the fourth wall.
Yeah, and like he just turns around to the writers and kills them, and that's how they end it.
Well, that's actually an interesting kind of segue into the fact that I think it was maybe 2 Wednesdays ago that Squirrel Girl had like a trade come out that's not a collection of individual issues that came out. It's its own volume, and it's called The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl Beats Up the Marvel Universe.
Right.
I saw that on Amazon.
The cover is kind of like the exact same mocking
of the Punisher.
Exact same style. Yeah, it's her standing on top of all the superheroes.
It's the Avengers versus the Marvel Universe. Punisher kills the Marvel Universe, and Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. And they all have. There's a couple of them that have the interlinking storylines, like the Punisher and the Avengers, and but Deadpool's all his own. It leads into Deadpool Illustrated or something like that, that you actually covered on the source material at one time. Jason.
I did indeed. Mm-hmm. One of the earlier episodes, I was all by myself. Very early.
Yeah, and so I really want to read Squirrel Girl Beats Up the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, that ought to be really interesting.
what really
if she can take out Wolverine and take out Galactus, I think she's got a pretty good shot.
Speaking of that, that's all over the internet too. Is that whole scene you were talking about, Ronnie, where it's like I thought we agreed. That's all over the place, and people seem to differ in their opinions. So there's the school of thought that says they were lovers at one point, and you're like, what the actual crap is this?
Yeah.
And then you have because if that's the case, and there's a whole lot of statutory things going on there. Like seriously, like there are people who are defending this. And like, no, Wolverine would never do that. And they were like, well, the whole thing with Jean Grey, and then
he's kind of a man whore.
Well, yeah.
He's kind of like 1,000 years old too.
I mean, I was going to say, but one of the comments they said was, "Old men will do what old men do." And they were like, "Let's just face it, that's what they do." And I'm like, "No, they don't."
That's not accurate at all.
There's another school of thought that says, "Oh well, she defeated him in a battle that was never really documented, but they kind of had a thing." But then there's another third school of thought that kind of combines the two. It says, "Oh, they were just kind of play fighting. They were lovers. They were play fighting." And she, and if I can, what's the word that they used that they use on it? And excuse the phrase, busted his nuts. So
nice. Hard time.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that was actually what they used. So it's one of those things like
she does have a utility belt filled with pouches filled with nuts that she refers to her as her nut sacks.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, and it's things like that make me absolutely love this comic book because they don't take themselves seriously at all. It's a Squirrel Girl defeating. Galactus and all this undefeatable.
She doesn't even fight Galactus. She just sits down and has a dialogue with him because at one point, she mentions Thanos. I beat up Thanos once is the thing, and he just goes Thanos, and she goes, "Yeah, you know him, purple guy, half goth because he's big into death, but half hipster because he makes his own gloves." He goes, Thanos is a fool.
Makes his own gloves.
That's so well done.
And she goes, "Yeah, well, me and Tippy Toe totally beat him up one time, or beat him up." And Tippy Toe says, "Yeah, and it wasn't a robot, clone, or so I don't know what that other word is. It wasn't a robot or a clone either." And it shows Galactus laughing. Is ha ha, nice.
That's something else cool too, though. Is that
nice? And he calls Thanos a tool. He goes, "What a tool!"
Yeah, that's something that they do too. Is like they go a little off character with like the typical like with Thanos and Doctor Doom and Galactus. Like they all say stuff you're like, that's super funny because it's coming from Doctor Doom.
Right.
Because Galactus called Thanos a tool. Oh man! So
something else that's funny is that. Erica Henderson does the art for this, and she's half of the reason that got me to buy Jughead.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, welcome to Riverdale.
She did all the art for the first what is this? First 6 issues of Jughead.
You Can I go back and revisit that just for a second?
Dude. Yeah, you can totally.
Did you just say to us that you purchased an Archie-related comic?
Dude, it's Chip Zdarsky and Erica Henderson. Like,
what am I going to do? Jughead. It was always going to be Jughead before any creators. I'm so glad that the creators have changed your mind on things. That's awesome.
I was about to go back and buy the first 5 issues of Archie too.
Wow.
Yeah, because this is well, here's the thing. Like, Erica Henderson does the art, and like I think that's perfect for what. Like, I don't know anything about Archie comics, but I know it's like Jughead's like the comic relief. So, like, I know that Erica Henderson has done Squirrel Girl. That's funny. It's gonna work. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then Chip Zdarsky has been he wrote the first 8 issues of Jughead, and he writes Howard the Duck, and I was like, dude, that combination,
yeah,
I have to try
yeah.
it. And I finished the first trade of Jughead a couple of days ago, and it was really good.
You would recommend it to people?
Yeah, it was really funny. And then I'm going to buy the next trade, which won't be out for a while, but I just saw that Ryan North picked up from Chip Zdarsky after he quit. So starting with issue number 10, Ryan North starts writing for it. So I'm like, well, okay.
Mark Waid's writing Archie. I think he's still writing it. And the art in at least the first couple of issues was done by Fiona Staples.
Oh, yeah. See, Fiona Staples does the art for Saga. And I don't know if any of you all have read Saga, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's literally equal parts amazing because the story's so good and because the art's just matches up perfectly.
So at least the first 5 issues, Mark Waid, Veronica Fish, and a few others take up the pencils in those. So let's see. Issue 2, Fiona. Issue 3 is Fiona. And issue 4 is Fiona Staples. Annie Wu is issue 4. Sorry,
I was gonna buy it regardless because of the creators, the Jughead book. But like whenever I opened it up, I was like, this is gonna be possibly pretty boring because I don't care at all about kids going to their ice cream socials and proms and stuff. Because that's all Archie comics are to me. You know, like this 50s, very stereotypical like. What's Pops doing with the ice cream shop? Like, I don't care. That's just no.
Gee, Wally, Dad's going to be home in 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been really interesting though. The way I know that we're kind of weirdly turning this into a Jughead talk, but like it's really cool the way they do it because there's like this kind of light storyline that is developing within Riverdale that goes on in Jughead, but like in the middle of each issue is basically him falling asleep or daydreaming about some like superhero or robot or spy version of what he's doing in real life. And it's all like that Chip Zdarsky, Howard the Duck like level of like super, super funny writing.
That's awesome.
Ronnie, any idea who the creators are going to be for the Riverdale series on CW?
I have no clue.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna pump the brakes on that one because I gotta take baby steps into this, man.
Well, here's the thing. Have you, Josh? Have you heard anything about the Riverdale series on CW?
No. Who's doing it?
Well, I don't know. I actually don't know, but I know that it's not exactly going to be. It's an upcoming American teen drama television series, so I don't know.
But it depends on how it's done, though. Like if
it's being produced by Greg Berlanti, who's done Dawson's Creek, Everwood, Political Animals, and he has done vast contributions to the Arrowverse on CW.
And he co-wrote and co-produced the Green Lantern movie.
Yeah, he did.
I don't know about that one.
I actually liked Dawson's Creek at the time.
I did too.
But like, yeah, dude, if they do Dawson's Creek, if they do that for Riverdale, like I do, no, I'm never watching the first episode. But
not happening.
Yeah, if he goes about that the way they've done the Flash, like count me in.
Yeah, this makes me think it'd probably be more along the lines of
See, Josh and I have this understanding that we trade off things. You know, back when I thought Rush was terrible just because of a few songs, he made me listen to Rush.
Good.
And it turned into I love Rush. I love them as a band.
Oh God,
He hated punk music. I got him to listen to it. He got into some punk bands, which, you know, he probably will deny to this day.
No, I like some punk bands.
I'm kidding. So I got him into punk. I'll take credit for that. He got me into Rush. He got me into Squirrel Girl. I got him into the Archie comic books.
Yeah, it was.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thanks. It was us talking about it on these podcasts though, like because I was like, yeah, that's terrible. Like that's ridiculous. I would always just make fun of Archie comics on here. It was a running joke, and with Jesse too. And
I've got one fan out there. It's good, Stephen Marsh. He loves the fact that you hated Archie comics, and I cannot wait to tell him.
Yeah, it's going to blow his mind. But the thing about it is that this is kind of getting to be like a comment on my opinion on comics in general now, is that like I used to be for the longest time, for like 10, 15, to be completely honest with you, the vast majority of my life, pure Marvel Comics. Mm-hmm. And really the only blip in that has been Green Lantern, and particularly Jeff Johns' run in the 2000s. But now, like, ever since this last Secret War and all the changes since then and the unnecessary renumberings of everything, a lot of stuff that Marvel's done has dropped off. So I've kind of been lost. Like, I still want to read comics. I know there's good comics out there, but like these Marvel books that I've been really devoted to and really interested in are not interesting at all anymore. So I've kind of started to pivot a little bit where I'm going more creator and artist focused, because there's been such crazy good books written, and I'm like, well, I want to buy another book since I just dropped 3 this week from Marvel. So what am I going to look for? Oh, Tom King wrote The Vision, and it's the best superhero book I've ever read in my life. What else is he writing? And he wrote the Omega Men for DC a couple of years ago, last year or whatever. I bought that trade. He's writing Batman right now, so I'll probably pick that up for sure.
Grayson, I heard he did a good job on. I think it's just called Grayson, which is Dick Grayson's comic where he's supposedly a spy or something like that. Have you ever read into much of Tom King's background?
No. Dude
has like extensive service in the Central Intelligence and CIA.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I say CIA. I may be incorrect on which exact government anagram or whatever the heck it is there. But yeah, he's got some stuff that apparently in his past that he's done like for the military and the government. So
that's actually pretty interesting though, because the whole context for the Vision series is that he moves to Washington D.C. to be a liaison for the government, and he also tries to creates his own family to try and be normal, and none of that works well together. Mm-hmm. And he also wrote, or is writing, I don't know if it was a limited or if it's still ongoing, some book for Vertigo called The Sheriff of Babylon that I want to pick up too, and it's apparently about something. It's a storyline based in Iraq, which is why it's called Babylon. So I'll pick up Batman. I'm going to buy the first trade for that, since this new renumbering, whatever it was called, I don't even remember. But I'm going to pick that first trade up and start buying the individual issues, because, and again, I know I've taken up way too much of all of your podcast's time talking about this, but like
no.
I literally cannot rave more about the Vision. Like the Vision, like borderline changed my life as a comic book reader. Wow. Like as big as I was in like West Coast Avengers and having Vision as a very strong character throughout that and kind of knowing his backstory, it's been, I mean, there are times like, and my wife doesn't read superhero books. Like she loves the movies. She's cool with it, but she's just not really into the comic books and the history and all that. But like every single issue of the 11 issues of Vision that have come out, there's 12, one more, and it's over. It's going to break my heart.
Oh.
But like every single issue, there's some point where like I sit the book down on my lap and I'm like, huh. And Laura's like, what's wrong? And I'm like this book just blew my mind again, and I have to take a breather. Like it's like there's emotional moments. It's crazy. So I'm done blabbing on about that. But I honestly, whenever the first trades, whenever the collected version of it comes out, like at some point I'm going to buy like multiple copies and just mail it out to you all, because like I want everybody that ever knows anything about the Vision to read those books. I'm done.
All right, man. If we can go into Squirrel Girl into that, I mean, bring that passion out for these comic books, that's amazing. So, not saying that Squirrel Girl wouldn't be something somebody's passionate about, but it's a different.
Yeah, it's a different tone and approach.
So, comic books get such a bad rap. Not so much anymore, but to me they've always, people don't see them as, and it's still to this day, people don't see them as a valid form of literature.
Oh, it's so wrong.
It's
so wrong.
It's so wrong. And one of the coolest classes that you could ever take was introduced at Marshall University when we went to college after I got out of Marshall, and it was comic books as literature.
Mm-hmm.
And you sat and you read. I think they read things like Mouse. They read. Dang, calm down, son.
Yeah, sorry.
That's a keyboard right there.
The thing is, that's not even a mechanical keyboard either.
Yeah, I was trying to slow it down so it wouldn't be loud. Sorry.
I was just kidding, man. I don't care.
170 words a minute.
But they read the Dark Knight Returns. They read several Frank Miller things. Frank Miller works, and they read. But they read Mouse. They read, gosh, so many of these amazing comic books, and that to see them as literature, and that's where people don't understand. Comic books are a very important part of our culture and a very important part of our literature, and a very you just got to understand that.
I was going to say that my daughter has been in Girl Scouts for the last, I think we're going on 5 or 6 years now, and this year, my wife sent me a message at like one of their first or second meeting, and she's like, "Do you think Jordan would be interested in having the kids come over to the shop?" Now, Jordan Lowe is the owner of our local comic book shop, and I said, "Well, yeah. Well, what's going on?" Girl Scouts, and I assume Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, whatever, can get a badge for learning about the creation of comic books. So this is probably one of the coolest things I've ever heard in my entire life. When my wife said, I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" So,
and you know what I think is even cooler though is like it'd be cool if they're both doing it, but like the fact that it's available for girls too.
Yes,
because I just feel like there hasn't been a lot of focus on like female readership, or especially like little girls, and I think that. Like books like Squirrel Girl, that's a perfect segue for like little girls to start on that stuff, because like there's stuff in there that kids could get and laugh at, and I mean and older girls, like Captain Marvel is getting to be a huge character right now, and Wonder Woman is getting her due now
in a
modern context.
Supergirl on the CW.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's really cool that like they're opening that up to the Girl Scouts too.
Yeah, so the plan is this, I think, Halloween or right around Halloween, they do something that is, it's similar to Free Comic Book Day on Halloween, where you come in, instead of getting candy for a trick or treat, they give comics out for trick or treat.
That's awesome.
So they're apparently going to be going to the shop, and Jordan, and I don't know if Michael K. Easton's going to get in on it or not, but Jordan's going to explain to them about the creation of comic books and the different formats and all that. So they're going to learn something, and I think they have to create one as part of the project in order to get the badge, all sorts of neat stuff. So it's wonderful that there are comic books out there, definitely like Squirrel Girl, to open readership to you can't just be adult oriented all the time, and there's more of a demand for something out of the ordinary and a breath of fresh air. That's a lot of what many comic book readers are looking for nowadays. Just something new and something refreshing. Doesn't have to be so dark. It can be humorous. It can be a fun time. Comics can be fun, people.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's like a big reason why like Howard the Duck and Squirrel Girl and comics like that are getting to be so popular, because I think like the DC movies took a lot of flack for being way too grim, and it got to be a little bit too much. It worked for Batman, but maybe not everything. And so, it's nice to see, the mainstream folks see that, and they see the Avengers movies where like cities are falling out of the sky and this and that and the other thing. And then they're like, well, maybe I'll buy a few books. And then, their little girl buys a Squirrel Girl, and they're like, wow, like this can be a lot more than what I thought it could be.
So, well, with that, I think we're going to call it a night.
Let me ask you something first before you do that, Ronnie. One more question.
I think we're going to have one more question before we go.
I also have one more comment, but go ahead.
Okay.
Well, no. This is you guys may have already talked about this, but did you guys talk about Goldberg and WWE tonight at all?
No.
Josh wanted to talk about it. I said, Josh, not right.
I did.
Well, I mean, I was excited about it, and I see that it's trending, and I thought maybe you guys had mentioned it, but
I haven't seen it. I know he was supposed to come back. That's about all I know. I mean, Josh, you watched Goldberg back in the day, I assume, right? Back in the 90s?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So he's returning tonight to face
Brock Lesnar
at WrestleMania.
Is that because they both failed at MMA?
I don't know.
Brock wasn't bad at MMA.
Was Goldberg in MMA?
The problem with Brock Lesnar is he doesn't know which one is which.
That's true.
He's like I'm just gonna punch and kick everything that comes at me, and you know what? I'm just not gonna stop even when they're bleeding.
He did recently bust Randy Orton open pretty rough. It was a pretty jagged cut.
Oh, that couple pay-per-views ago.
Yeah,
that was ridiculous.
SummerSlam? Not SummerSlam. Was it SummerSlam?
No,
I think it was.
I think it was SummerSlam. It was elbows and punches that he. I mean, it was
straight to the top of his dome.
Yeah, it was legitimately MMA style elbows, strikes and punches.
I hate Brock Lesnar.
Well, I just want to see him get completely decimated by Goldberg.
And
Goldberg did make Bret Hart forget his family.
Yeah,
that was not on purpose.
Man, I'll never forget him just like walking out. Remember when Bret Hart just kind of walked out into the aisle and he just kind of stood there and just walked back away, and people were like, what the hell is Bret doing?
Yeah, and I think they actually we were watching that together, Josh.
Yeah, I remember because even whoever was
Tony Schiavone was
whatever they call him, announcer, commentator. Like he was like, "There's Bret." Like you could tell, like it was. You could tell it was not like a play. He was just like, "That's not in the script." Or, I didn't even know Bret was here. But like you could tell and wasn't he in like jeans and a t-shirt or something?
Yeah.
He wasn't even in like his glasses or a leather jacket like usually is. He just kind of walked out and was like, "This is what I'm usually supposed to do, right?" And it's like, Bret, dude, hospital buddy, no.
Then he walked and he kind of shuffled to the back, and they were like, and Tony Schiavone, I remember he said something like, "Well, there's the Hitman," and there he goes back to the back.
Was this was this the one that he just kicked him in the head or something?
This was like
thereafter. Yeah,
this was like several weeks after because like that was because like he leaned the wrong way, right, with that kick. Like he leaned into it rather than away it or whatever it was, and like he got a severe kick like straight to the temple or whatever.
Yeah. It was he had a severe concussion, and later on, I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it led to stroke. I mean, like he had a stroke. He had some.
This is the one. It basically ruined his career, right? Is that the one?
Oh, that was his last match.
That was it.
Okay, I've heard. I know the one you're talking about. I've read stories and people refer back to that match.
But 49-year-old Goldberg is coming back to the ring after 20 years to face Yeah, to face Brock Lesnar, who still murders people.
I hate Brock Lesnar. I want him to lose. But if Goldberg wins, I don't know if that's something that I could sit there and, say, okay, that's believable. So I hate for Goldberg to come back and lose to Brock Lesnar.
Oh, I'd be so mad.
But here's the thing: you never know what they're going to do with Brock Lesnar. You never know. It just seems like they just feed him people so he can bury. Pretty much one and done him. It makes me aggravated. Aggravated, I say. I don't. I don't. And here's the thing: I don't watch wrestling anymore. I do not watch it. I just keep up with it because a lot of my friends, such as you guys and other people that I know, are huge wrestling fans, and I sit there and I catch the occasional pay-per-view every once in a while, but I just cannot. I can see bringing Goldberg back, 49 years old. When's the last time he wrestled a match? Can someone answer me that?
I remember watching seriously him in middle school, so maybe that was like 90s, mid 90s.
Oh, I think he made the return to WWE. His first appearance in WWE was, I remember, it was him and The Rock feuding. That was 2000, had to have been 2002. And then he fell off the face of the earth, in my opinion. I mean, I know he hosted his show and all that other stuff, but the ring rust has to be caked on at this point. And him getting into a wrestling ring and making it look good. I mean, first off, Goldberg was not known for making matches look good.
That's why he wore those gloves.
It just wasn't something that Goldberg did. And
because he just picked people up and threw them. That's all he did.
He suplex and
his matches were awful. Like, they weren't fun to watch at all.
The only thing that he had going for him was his streak and the fact that he wouldn't talk. Had this great mystique about him. He was unbeatable. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Goldberg I was a complete and utter mark. Mm-hmm. But then, his run in 2002, 2003, he'd been out of the game for just a tiny little bit, not a whole lot. But then to have this much length of a time for this guy to come back, he's not the master on the mic either. He's not the greatest person on the mic, in my opinion. What do you think, Ronnie? You think Goldberg can talk? Or you don't have to answer me, Ronnie.
I think no.
Sorry,
that's a
no. It's a no. That is definitely a no.
You're giving us some thoughts.
A little bit of thought, but it was no. I mean,
This guy couldn't talk. I mean, the promos. I'm not saying he was horrible. It's just I couldn't. This isn't. If Ric Flair came back now, I'd have more of a chance probably believing Ric Flair doing something. I don't know. But he could talk. He'd make it interesting. So that's why you got Heyman there. Heyman's going to make it interesting for the Lesnar match because Heyman's going to be able to run his mouth. And
I still remember when Paul Heyman was when Brock Lesnar first got in the WWF, and Paul Heyman was his advocate.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I would watch it with Josh and Adam Cheek, and we would just watch Brock Lesnar because he wouldn't say anything. He was always standing in the background flexing and jumping and stuff. And Josh would just go, "Brock want nacho, Paul. Shut up, Brock."
Rumble.
Brock want nachos. Brock can have nacho now? Yes, let's go get your nachos, Brock. God. But then he started talking, and his voice is more like, "Brock want nacho, Paul."
Then we find out why he doesn't talk.
It's not impressive.
So, all right. I think Josh had one final thought for us.
One thing. Did you all see does anybody know who Stephen Merchant is?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I do not.
He co-created The Office with Ricky Gervais. He's co-created basically every series that Ricky Gervais has done, and he's done some stuff on his own a lot since then. But he's also going to be playing Caliban in the new Wolverine movie.
What?
And if you do a Google search, the first image of him as Caliban came out today, and it's the old Morlocks Caliban. And if you know Stephen Merchant, his body build is flawless for skinny, lame, albino, like Morlock Caliban. So if y'all haven't seen that, it came out today, and you should Google it, and he looks awesome.
I'm pulling it up because the
Caliban
that I remember,
skinny, bald albino dude. But that was the original one because later in the '90s they let's make him a Hulk-looking character. It's like that's just a
that's the one I remember. Yeah, I remember Caliban and reading the. He was in Cable a little bit, but. So
but they're doing an original they're doing a Morlocks version of him, and just the stoic look in his eye, it looks really good.
Is this going to be Old Man Logan? Is that what we're expecting?
Hopefully a better written one, yeah.
Oh. All right, so
series blue, dude.
Hey, it wasn't that bad. It was really good. I thought.
Sucked.
I think I got one more issue and then I'll be done. It's 4 issues, isn't it? Or 6? Yeah. I can't remember.
I think it's like 5 or 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
8. It's an 8-issue storyline.
Is it?
Wow, really?
Yeah, it was 8. Yeah.
I don't. Then I got a little ways to go.
I blew through it. I loved it. You're talking about the original
Mark
one,
Miller.
Right?
Yeah, Mark Miller.
Yeah. So I mean, the Hulk family and fart noises. Okay. With that, we are going to end our discussion, and we're going to say pick up Squirrel Girl. Give it a read, please. Please do. You won't be disappointed. And turn on Netflix and watch Luke Cage after you're done reading, because both of them are masterfully done. Actually, watch Luke Cage first, because you're going to need something to pick up your spirits a little bit, because some of those episodes are pretty heavy. And then read Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, because you're going to love it. Joshua Calandros, Josh, tell us what's going on in your life and where we can find you.
I'm on Twitter. I'm at Red Parallax. At this point in the year, it's all about college football for me. And for this year, it's all about bitching about how terrible Marshall's football team is.
Oh, man. I don't even watch college football, and Marshall must suck.
Dude, so Marshall beat Morgan State. We played our 1AA team that everybody plays, and we beat them 62-0. So everybody's like, oh, okay, we're going to be kind of, the team we've been lately, because – the last 3 years we've won 10 or more games a year. It's been really good. And so the next game we played Akron and got beat 65-38.
Jeez.
The next game we played Louisville, which was going to be a loss anyway because they're amazing. We lost 59-28. The next week we got beat by Pittsburgh, which is also a pretty good team, but we got lost 43-27.
Okay, you held them under 50. That's at least.
Dude, the next one's the worst, though. The week after that, we got beat by North Texas.
Oh, Lord.
38-21. And then this past Saturday, we barely managed to eke out a win against Florida Atlantic on homecoming. So,
that's the Marshall team that. That's the Marshall team when I was there. I remember when I first started in 2002.
Yeah, you were there during the Mark Snyder years then.
Before we had, I think in 2002. I'm not sure who that may have been Mark Snyder in 2002. But
no, that was still Pruitt.
It was still Pruitt. Okay,
yep.
So we won the GMAC Bowl, the GMAC Bowl that year, because I remember being part of the student body that ripped down the goalpost. We paraded it down 3rd Avenue. And then we took it to AK Steel and cut it up. And
they did that when we won it in 2015.
Right. But between 2002 and 2015, that's like the only time we ever did it. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's like you had that period of 13 years that you didn't. It's like we just couldn't find, and everybody kept saying, oh, it's a rebuilding year. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? It's a rebuilding decade.
Yeah.
At some point.
It was a decade. But at any rate, that's what I'm doing. I usually tweet about sports. I'm also at the very front end of hockey season, so that's nice for me as a Blackhawks fan. And then also I'm not a big baseball fan, but having lived in Chicago for a couple of years and I went to 6 or 7 or 8 Cubs games. Like I follow them in the postseason, and that's been pretty cool. So that's usually what I'm kind of doing is sports on Twitter.
I follow him on Twitter and on Facebook, and it's a lot of one-sided conversations. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's usually just me making comments about things,
and like, it's amazing. I love it.
But the thing, what I do is like I've linked my Twitter to my Facebook, so like whenever I post something on Twitter, it goes to my Facebook, and usually, like during a Marshall game in particular, like I'm not checking Facebook, dude. Like I'm not checking Facebook to have a discussion about it. I'm usually jumping on Twitter to bitch. You know, like I'm usually jumping on Twitter to be like, awesome, our 5th sack of the game, and it's the 3rd quarter, sweet. You know, like it's just I don't want to have a discussion about that. I just want to have an outlet so that I don't physically hurt one of our dogs. That's what
Twitter is for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Jesse, tell us what's going on with you, man.
Oh, my goodness. You can follow me at Stiznarkey on Twitter if you wish to do so. I do a comic book podcast on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. It is called Source Material. Right now we are in the midst of part 2 of our coverage of Hush, where me, Jason Teasley, and one Ronnie Adams got on there and discussed Jim Lee and Jim Lee's wonderful art and the wonderful story of Batman Hush. So it brought a lot of people back into comics. It's a great story. So check it out. Part 3 is going to be dropping next Monday, and then shortly after that, I believe me and Gavin Napier should be dropping an episode on Halloween where we discussed Witch Doctor, which is tremendous.
Yeah, that was really good.
We only discussed the first 4 issues of the series, and again, we talk about breath of fresh air. This was something that was a fun read and very interesting. One of my favorites so far this year that I've read from that hasn't been from the big 2. So, and you can check me out on the Metal Hammer of Doom this coming. Whenever this airs, as of right now, this Wednesday we'll be covering Meshuggah's newest release, which should be pretty interesting.
I need to listen to that.
I've not listened to any Meshuggah before. Although,
really, dude.
Well, here's the thing: one of the singles that's dropped off their most recent album sounds really good because I've heard it over and over on one of the Spotify playlists.
They're probably the most technical band. If you sit and really pay attention to it, like it's really heavy and you can just mindlessly enjoy it as metal. But if you sit and listen to the time signatures that they're doing and the timings that they're changing up, like I've never heard anything like it. Like it's basically math.
Yes, it's math rock. Math. It's like math metal or something like that.
But that is mathcore.
It's like it's more than that. Like it's bizarre.
They did a song. I think it's
melting.
Them. I think it's them, but it may not be. But there's a metal band out there. It may be Animals as Leaders. I can't remember. But they have they have a song that's written. No, it's Tool. It's Tool that does it. They have a song that's written in the time signatures of like 100 and some digits of pi. So it's like the first measure has like three beats in it. The second one has 1. The third one has 4 beats in it.
That one Tool album, the
Golden Ratio.
Well, that is the Fibonacci sequence.
Which
is like this mathematical formula. So
it's an algorithm.
The tracks are listed in such a way that if you reorder them in the order of the Fibonacci sequence, it also flows perfectly. Like it's
unreal.
It's bizarre.
It's that kind of stuff. It's that kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff. Though I was watching the drummer for Tool. I was watching a video back when I was in high school, and they were talking to him, and it was completely made up. But they were like, how do you come up with these complex rhythms, and rather than just saying, I follow the music and I play what I feel, he was like, well, sometimes I like to arrange my drums according to the position of the stars, and then I sit and meditate. and I listen to the voices in my head, and I try to mimic those sounds in my head with the drums, and I'm like, you are so full of crap, but that's awesome.
One last thing I'll talk about, like this math and the numbers thing, is like, I don't know, like for anybody that's metal fans, but like I'm kind of biased here, but I don't know if anybody's listened to much of Byzantine, but like,
I love Byzantine.
They've got there's one of the songs that the time signature changes up based on the lead singer's social security number. Because they were sitting around and they were like, because they're huge Meshuggah fans, and they were like, well, it would be awesome if we could do something just ridiculous like that and make it work. And I think OJ or one of them sat down and screwed around with their social security number, and they're like, "All right, I can actually make this work."
That's hilarious.
Well, I'll be listening to the full album tomorrow because while I'm working, so I'll be making my notes, and that's one thing I'll keep in mind. I'll be listening for. So give the Radulich Broadcasting Facebook page a like. You can stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have out there, including this very one that will probably be airing sometime this weekend. And Josh, our plan is to be covering Doctor Strange: The Oath. We're going to record that on the 24th. It'll be me, Josh, and Mark Radulich and Ronnie Adams. If you're interested, you're more than welcome to hop on there as well.
Yeah.
So, and there we go. That's it for me.
Adam.
You can find me at Adam is a Nerd. I tweet all the time and I have good stuff to say.
Yay. Show Nuff on Twitter, SH0NUFF. You can follow the show on Twitter at Screaming Boy PR. On Instagram, Screaming Boy Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Screaming Boy Podcast. You can find us at www.screamingboy.com. We are on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, and the Radulich Broadcasting Network. Please go on any one of these places and hit the download button, hit that 5-star button. Let us know what you think, because we really long for your attention and love. We're starved for it, but but anyway, we also have our YouTube page, so please take a look at it if you're not here already. If you are here, I don't think we have any viewers right now, so screw you guys. We're going home. We're out.
My hip-hop will pop the shot. My hip-hop